My mother-in-law wrote my ex's name on my cake. I gave her a surprise the next day. Let me tell you about my mother-in-law, the queen of judgment. From day one, she made it clear she wasn't a fan of me or our marriage. Every time she stepped into our home, it felt like she had a radar for finding flaws in every little thing, as if she were on a secret mission to nitpick our entire life. For example, there was this one time she said she wanted a specific type of tea and couldn't stand anything else. I decided to be a good hostess and bought her exactly that tea. But oh no, that wasn't enough for Her Majesty. As soon as she sniffed the tea, she acted like I'd served her some toxic sludge, poured it out, and declared she'd never admit to liking such a drink. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. This woman had a talent for being a snob in the most creative ways. She'd often make snarky comments about my cooking, my clothing choices, and even how I decorated our home. It felt like she had a personal vendetta against me. You'd think my husband would take my side, right? Well, he tried, but he couldn't fully stand up to her. He always attempted to smooth things over, explaining to her that she should respect our decisions and accept me as part of the family. But she just wouldn't budge. It seemed like she wanted to be the gatekeeper of the family and decided I didn't belong. I mean, who does that? We were supposed to be family, but she acted like I was an outsider. I couldn't believe my ears when I heard that my mother-in-law, of all people, decided to throw me a surprise birthday party. It was such a bizarre turn of events, considering she'd never been my biggest fan. I had mixed feelings. I wondered if it was some elaborate prank, or if she was genuinely trying to mend things. But as it turned out, this birthday surprise was far from pleasant. The day started with the usual festive stuff: balloons, decorations, and smiles all around. I tried to push my doubts aside and enjoy the moment, but then came the truth: the birthday cake. When they brought out the cake, I was excited to see what it looked like. But imagine my shock when I saw my husband's ex-wife's name written in big bold letters instead of mine. How could that even happen? I looked at my mother-in-law, trying to figure out what was going on, and she, with this smug smirk, said she messed up my name because she's getting old and forgetful. Yeah, right, it was obvious she did it on purpose. Who mixes up their daughter-in-law's name and puts the ex-wife's name on her cake? It felt like a cruel joke, and I couldn't believe she'd stooped so low. Everyone else looked shocked too, unsure how to react. I tried to hold it together, but deep down, I was hurt and angry. It was hard not to take it personally, especially after all her snide remarks and judgment. When my husband saw the cake, he was just as stunned as I was. He genuinely wanted to make my birthday special, but his mom had stepped in and offered to plan the whole surprise herself. It seemed like a good sign that she was finally willing to try and build a better relationship with me. She told my husband she wanted him to have a good relationship with me, and was ready to make an effort. It looked like she was playing the role of a caring, understanding mother-in-law, luring him into believing she'd changed. But he didn't know it was just a facade, a cunning plan to ruin my birthday and hurt me in the process. I didn't want to ruin the celebration, so I just smiled, but I had other plans in mind. Now let me give you some backstory. It seemed my mother-in-law had a knack for stirring up trouble with her constant comparisons between me and my husband's ex-wife. The irony was, my husband told me she didn't approve of his ex either. It was like déjà vu, but what was even more amusing was that my mother-in-law herself was my father-in-law's second wife. Somehow she conveniently forgot her own history while meddling in ours. The irony was just too real. My father-in-law's story was a mystery in itself. My husband didn't know much about his other family, and I didn't pry either. All we knew was that my father-in-law had two families, and it seemed like his other family wanted nothing to do with this one. We'd heard whispers of some distant, tangled connection with that family, but the details were shrouded in secrecy. It felt like there was an invisible boundary we weren't allowed to cross. Then, a year after our wedding, I learned the truth about my father-in-law's divorce from his first wife, and the reason, as it turned out, was my mother-in-law. It was like an episode of a soap opera, with family secrets and drama at every turn. I couldn't help but wonder if her constant comparisons were her way of asserting herself, trying to take the place of my husband's first wife. It was as if she was attempting to erase the past and establish herself as the gold standard of the perfect wife. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't erase the fact that my husband's first marriage had nothing to do with me. We were our own couple, with our own unique love story. Back to the present, as I mentioned, I didn't react to her mistake. I just smiled. My mother-in-law's birthday was the very next day, a real one, mind you, so I decided to return the favor with a surprise of my own. I pulled a little prank and ordered a cake with the name of my father-in-law's first wife instead of hers. Naturally, I played completely innocent, blaming the bakery for the mix-up. Oh, you should have seen her face when she saw the cake. It was priceless. She was practically fuming with rage, and I could barely hold back a smirk, as if karma had come full circle. All those times she belittled me and made me feel unworthy, and now she got a taste of her own medicine. She started yelling, throwing a full-blown tantrum, while I stayed calm and composed. My husband tried to calm her down, but she wouldn't listen. And there was something liberating about watching her lose control for once. I innocently asked if she was okay, acting like I had no clue what was going on. Inside, I was cheering with delight. Then she stormed out of the room, unable to handle the humiliation. My husband looked at me, questioning whether I'd done it on purpose. I didn't want to admit anything, so I put on my most innocent face. "Oh, I must have mixed up the cake," I said with the sweetest, most angelic smile. And he bought it, hook, line, and sinker. It was my little secret, a moment where I got to pay her back in her own coin. I knew I probably shouldn't have stooped to her level, but I couldn't resist, and my God, it felt so good. Do you think I went too far, reopening old wounds? Well, my little cake prank definitely stirred up a storm. My mother-in-law is complaining to everyone, claiming I did it on purpose. But as they say, you reap what you sow. Of course, I denied everything, playing the innocent lamb and reminding her how she ruined my birthday with her whole tea incident. And I didn't throw a tantrum like she did. After all, it's just a cake, right? No need to make a tragedy out of it. But you know how it is with mothers-in-law. They'll always find a reason for drama. She loves being the center of attention, and this was her starring moment. The whole family knows exactly what she's like, so it's no surprise they all took my side. They've seen her theatrical performances before, and weren't falling for it this time. Honestly, it's kind of funny. The tables have turned. She's used to being the star of the show, getting everything she wants, and now she's left on the sidelines, red with anger. And I have to admit, I'm kind of enjoying it. My husband, of course, is in a tough spot, torn between defending his mom and believing me. But I'm not about to spill my little secret. Let him think what he wants. It's all in good fun, right? Update 2. Since the cake incident, my mother-in-law has been surprisingly quiet and hasn't bothered us much. It's like a breath of fresh air. Life's gotten so much calmer. Maybe my little prank had a bigger impact on her than I expected. Perhaps she realized her dramatic antics aren't working anymore, and decided to tone it down, or maybe she's just sulking in a corner, nursing her wounded ego. Either way, I'm not complaining. I can finally breathe without her constant judgment and criticism. It's like a weight's been lifted, and I feel freer than ever. Of course, I'm not naive enough to think this will last forever. Knowing my mother-in-law, she'll come back with her drama eventually, but for now, I'm just soaking up the peace. Update 3. You know the saying, if you can't beat them, block them? Well, that's exactly what I did. Life's been so much better since I blocked my mother-in-law. No more nagging, no more drama, just sweet, blissful silence. And thank you all for the support in the comments. It's reassuring to know I'm not alone in dealing with a dramatic mother-in-law. Your words of encouragement have been a real source of strength. When she confronted me about being blocked, I just played it cool and blamed it on network issues. A little white lie never hurt anyone, right? Plus, messing with her a bit is kind of fun. I'll admit, I'm enjoying this newfound sense of power and control. Blocking her has given me a freedom and peace I didn't even know was possible. It's like I've got the remote to her drama, and I get to decide when to turn it on or off. To everyone dealing with dramatic mothers-in-law, hang in there and don't let anyone bring you down. Until next time, take care and live your best life. Comment 1. You're absolutely not in the wrong. Dealing with a difficult mother-in-law is a nightmare, and you did what you needed to do to keep your peace of mind. Blocking her was a smart move. And yeah, network issues happen all the time, don't they? You deserve a drama-free life. Don't let anyone guilt you into tolerating unnecessary stress. Keep doing what's best for you and enjoy your well-earned peace. Comment 2. You're not the asshole, girl. Mothers-in-law can be tough, and sometimes you've got to take matters into your own hands. Prioritizing your mental health is key, and if that means cutting toxic people out of your life, so be it. Stay strong and don't let anyone make you feel guilty for putting yourself first. Next story. I'm not a fan of sharing food. I often find myself in situations where people want to try my food, and it puts me in an awkward spot. If it's just one bite, fine, but more often than not, they touch my utensils with their saliva, and then go back for more. I don't want someone else's spit or germs in my food. Gross. I meticulously plan my diet, tracking calories, protein, everything. If someone eats part of my portion, it throws off my calculations. I'm currently trying to bulk up, and if I don't hit my protein goals, I'm left hungry and lose potential progress. Lately, when I eat with others, I just order 2 portions of everything I want. I pay for the extra food myself, and don't push the bill on anyone. When someone asks to try my food, I've got a spare portion ready. Sometimes people give me weird looks, but it doesn't cause any problems. I don't need anyone else's food. I just want to enjoy mine. If someone wants to try it, fine. Here's a separate plate with the same dish. If they don't eat it all, great. I've got tasty leftovers for later. To me, it's a win-win. Recently, my cousin and I went to a fancy steakhouse. I always pay. I decided to check beforehand if she'd want to try my steak. She said, yeah, so I called the waiter and ordered an extra portion. This really upset her. She thought I only ordered another steak because she wanted to try mine. I explained that I just wanted my plate to stay full. She could eat as much as she wanted from the extra portion, and I'd take any leftovers home. She was unhappy and the vibe at the table got tense. We barely talked, like two annoyed strangers instead of family. Later I found out she was really upset and told a bunch of people in the family. She said I was being selfish, and some agreed, saying not sharing with family isn't a great move. I don't get it. I am sharing. I pay for the extra food myself. I'm just not sharing my plate. They still get to try the exact same thing I'm eating. In my cousin's case, a whole extra steak. She could have eaten as much as she wanted. Is that selfish? I don't like saliva in my food, even from close family. I thought ordering extra was a compromise, but my cousin still thinks I'm a jerk. Am I missing something? IA. Response 1. NTA. But seriously, how many people are actually asking for your food? Are they always the same ones? I've been going to restaurants my whole life, and maybe 20 times total someone asked to try my food, and those were my partners. No is a complete sentence. If people don't respect your no, stop eating with them. There's no need to keep ordering extra dishes, and in polite company, no one's obligated to share their food. Response 2. A lot of people won't get your situation, OP, but I do. For me, it's not food, it's my water bottle. I hate when anyone drinks from it. Even strangers somehow think it's fine. Relatives are the worst. I've told them 100 times not to touch my bottle. I even bought everyone their own, but they still go for mine. You're doing everything you can to avoid offending anyone, and people still get upset just because you won't let them cross your boundaries. NTA. Response 3. Yeah, NTA. You're a bit quirky about food, but you found a great solution to your issue that doesn't make things awkward for others. It might be a tad excessive, but it still works well. Just say I really don't like sharing food. It's just my big quirk, and people should respect that. So I genuinely don't get why your cousin or anyone else would be mad about this. Next story. This happened almost a year ago, but I still hear about it every time we have steak. So I figured I'd ask. Almost exactly a year ago, I gave birth to our son. He's absolutely wonderful in every way, but back then, he wasn't sleeping well, and I, a freshly postpartum mom, was exhausted and overwhelmed with hormones. My mother-in-law kindly offered to stay with us for the first week to help us adjust to parenthood. She's a bit overbearing but very helpful. Our anniversary happened to fall on the third day after we brought our loud little bundle of joy home. It was far from a perfect anniversary. Sleepless nights, doubts about my breastfeeding abilities, a baby who slept in 2-hour stretches, and my mother-in-law in our house. But that's life. I love bison steak, and so does my husband. My dad wanted to make our anniversary special, and secretly texted my husband to ask if he'd mind if he came over to cook us a celebratory dinner. He lives in another state, drove all the way just to do this for us, and left right after for work. Usually I'm the one who cooks steak, because bison is tricky. It needs low heat and hits well done faster than regular beef. I genuinely enjoy cooking. It helps me relax, and my husband knows that. When my dad showed up with 3 bison T-bone steaks, I was thrilled but so exhausted. I told everyone we'd eat after I took a nap. My husband and mother-in-law insisted they'd cook the meat for me, and I burst into tears. I told them it was wrong, they didn't know how to cook it, and the meat was expensive. I was terrified they'd ruin it because neither of them had experience with bison. After some convincing, I went to nap but was still crying. Half an hour later, I came out. I couldn't sleep. Still thinking about it. My husband served a steak cooked to 70 fivyev, about 77 gukseir, way overdone for bison. And my mother-in-law set a mix of ketchup and Worcestershire sauce in front of me, saying, "Bon appetit." I started sobbing again and couldn't eat at all. It was like chewing leather, and the ketchup sauce mix was the final straw. They were genuinely trying to help and do something nice, but I was so exhausted and hormonal that I just couldn't handle it. I told my husband they ruined the expensive steaks. My mother-in-law insisted everything was perfect and ate them herself. To this day, my husband brings up how I didn't eat the steak, and I keep saying I was just hormonal and upset that the steak was inedible. AITA for crying over the steak.
Response 1. Not the asshole.
First, postpartum hormones are no joke. Second, seven-tonnered narrative and ketchup? Who does that to a steak? Response 2. NTA. Is this a pattern in your relationship? Does your husband keep bringing up old fights? Print out a ton of info on postpartum hormones, and next time he starts, just dump it on his lap. Next story. I'm 29, my boyfriend is 33. A year and a half ago, we moved to Amsterdam and live on the ground floor of a 3-story building. If you've never been to Amsterdam, you should know most buildings have tiny entryways and incredibly steep stairs. In our case, the entryway is just 9 square feet, about 0.8 millimeter. Our upstairs neighbors, a 35-year-old man and 32-year-old woman, had one child when we moved in, and a few months ago, they had a second. Since we've lived here, there's always been a folded stroller at the bottom of the stairs, blocking half the first step. This makes it hard to come and go with groceries or suitcases, and delivery packages are a mess. There are often boxes from their deliveries on the steps, because there's no room in the entryway. We constantly have to move their heavy stroller and carry it outside just to bring things in. We've been sympathetic and never complained, just tried to deal with it. But after their second child, things got worse. They started leaving the stroller unfolded for hours instead of folding it and leaning it against the wall. Now there's also a huge umbrella, a kid's tricycle, and even a bassinet they often leave in the entryway, sometimes with the baby inside. We'd love to leave our umbrellas or shopping cart there too, but we don't because we know it inconveniences others. By the way, none of the other tenants leave anything in the entryway or their corridors, just these neighbors. So, I politely wrote them a letter asking them to remove the extra stuff, the tricycle, umbrella, and bassinet, and to please fold the stroller right after using it. This is already a compromise on our part, since we get that carrying it up the stairs is tough, but the rest is just too much and gets in the way. It's been a week since they picked up the letter, and nothing's changed. Today, we ran into them on the street. They gave us a nasty look and left a note calling us jerks who don't understand parenting struggles, and claiming they have every right to leave their stuff there. Response 1. NTA. I'm also from the Netherlands, and live in an apartment building. Keeping shared spaces clear is everyone's responsibility. And yes, it's totally normal here for neighbors to ask others not to let strangers in, or leave strollers and bikes in inconvenient spots. No one has more rights than anyone else. Having kids isn't an excuse. Lots of people have kids, but not everyone makes it a problem for others. Response 2. NTA. Your request is reasonable. The entryway isn't a storage unit. You're asking them to clear stuff, not out of principle but because it genuinely gets in the way. The umbrella and bassinet are especially unfair, since they're not things used every time they leave the house. If you enjoyed these stories, give them a like, leave a comment, and check out more stories on my channel.